people see a fight, they see it looks like a one-sided fight, but it was a one-sided fight for a reason, because Kelly has a piston-like jab that the guy couldn't get away from, and he was able to work off the jab. Without that jab, which nobody in the middleweight division has, a jab like that, the kid gets inside, and it's a war.
Talked about Kelly's performance in the middleweight division. If there's nobody in the middleweight division that can really, give him stiff competition, how much of a future do you see with him in this division?
Well, one thing about boxing that's great is there's young kids that nobody's heard of, like nobody had heard of Kelly Pavlik, and they come up and they create challenges. I mean, there are guys that he can fight that would be intriguing fights that. Even the guys who are, super critical, like Arthur Abraham, who's also undefeated, would be one of those. And Kelly is just we're not going to listen to networks. We're not going to listen to experts. We're going to fight who we want, when we want, and we're going to fight as many times a year as we can. I mean, I remember when I started. And in the 80s, guys fought, Hagler and those guys fought 4 or 5 times a year. And Kelly, no reason why he shouldn't. He wants to. He doesn't want to take off and sit out on the beach and, or spend all his time playing golf. He wants to, he stays at home. He likes staying at home, and he trains at home. So, for Kelly to fight 4 times a year is appropriate.
Is speculation in September in Ohio?
My first priority, I told everybody, my first priority is Joe Calzaghe. And that's a huge fight, and if that fight takes place, it would take place in Las Vegas. So that's that's priority number 1. And I really believe that the nice people, the Calzaghe people, Frank Warren, his promoter, is a dear friend of mine. They want to make the fight. I think the economics will come together, and I think that fight will be made. In which case, that fight would be in October, not September. Now, if the Calzaghe fight can't be made, then Kelly will fight in September, and we're going to look to fight in Ohio. Probably Cleveland.
Is that Marco Antonio Rubio?
Who? No, that depends. It depends. We have to sit down and figure out who's available and so forth. There are a lot of guys on the list. Rubio is a possibility. Mayorga is a possibility. King's calling me about Mayorga. But right now, my next week or so is going to be spent working on making a Calzaghe.
Bob, any chance Roy Jones Brown Stadium?
Is Roy Jones a realistic possibility?
Look, I like Roy. Roy was a great fighter. Guys like Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins, enough. Let them go, let them retire, and let the young guys fight.
Bob, Cleveland Brown Stadium, is that an option?
No, because I've been talking with the Cleveland Browns, and their management felt that although the date was open that we were looking for, they have the New York Giants coming in very shortly thereafter, and they got to get ready for the Giants. It's not going to help them because the Giants will beat the shit out of them. But,
Bob, when it's all said and done, tonight's attendance, were you still disappointed in the numbers, and what does it say about the overall draw Pavlik is?
Don't be blinded by the number and relate it to boxing. If you had driven up here from the New York area on the New Jersey Turnpike and the Garden State Parkway, it was empty. It was empty. You drive in Las Vegas, it's empty. People can't afford the gas. There's a crisis in this country. You can laugh all you want, but it's true. It's true. A guy getting into his car from Youngstown to drive here and back, $350 at least, without tolls, without anything. So, given that economic situation, And it's not only this Pavlik fight, it's Pacquiao's fight in Las Vegas, it's Cotto Margarito, it's all the fights. It's concerts. Speak to them about concerts. We have an economic crisis in the country. That being said, I was very satisfied with the attendance because significantly, even though it was a fall-off from the Jermaine Taylor fight, the higher priced tickets sold. So our gate was almost as large as the Taylor Pavlik fight.
Lopez's performance, how obviously you're
Lopez is mark my words, Lopez is the next big superstar at Top Rank. He is going to be absolutely great. He's going to take his place with Kelly and with Miguel and with Margarito and with Manny, and he's going to be one of our stars.
You've done this obviously 40-plus years. Have you ever had a run like this the past 2+ years of winning these type of fights against other non-top ranked fighters?
Look, we got the best matchmakers in the business. We have the best scouts. We know what we're doing. This is not an accident. Now, sure, you can lose and so forth, and you can get beat any night. That goes without saying. This is not an accident. Our fighters, when they reach the championship level, like Juan Manuel tonight, they know how to fight. They know how to win. Kelly Pavlik, when he reached the championship level, it wasn't only because Bruce kept him undefeated. He knew how to fight, he had learned how to fight, and he could win. That's what we can do. De La Hoya and Mayweather had the same training from us, and they developed into big stars. But they didn't make it themselves, and they didn't make it overnight. They were put into the machine, and they went through the mill, and then they could fight with anybody. So I say this, that HBO can give dates to any promoters with no fighters, with no nothing, with no, for years. They can all have the dates. We have the fighters.
Speaking of De La Hoya, now that Mayweather is out of the picture, you think you would put Cotto or Margarito, the winner of that fight?
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Of course the winner of that fight would fight De La Hoya. But would you want to see Oscar, after having had the career he has, really get hurt? Either guy would really hurt Oscar. And that doesn't say anything bad. Maybe Oscar in his prime, could handle Cotto or Margarito. But Oscar now can't. Come on. Stevie Forbes broke his eye.
I would assume you've heard Paul Williams, scored an emphatic first.
Scored
an emphatic first one. Now, you mentioned about Oscar probably not wanting. Floyd is doing whatever he did yesterday. Does Paul Williams get in the front of the line for the winner of that fight now, especially against Margarito being the rematch?
Well, it depends. It depends on who wins the fight. If Cotto beats Margarito, and Clottey beats Judah, then I would match Cotto with Clottey, because both of them, I owe that obligation to Clottey. If Judah wins, and Cotto wins, then Cotto is for Judah, and then I would look to Williams. If Margarito wins the fight, then Williams would be a possibility, because Williams beat him. Fuck the unification shit. All that means is paying extra sanction fees. Let's be honest about it. You want to see fights. You don't care about how many belts they wear.
And what do you think would be the next logical step for Juan Manuel?